Now, as the Ember months approach, if you meet Nigerians and ask them what they want, they are still full of hope and they wish for so many things. For some Nigerians, it's education. For others, it's health. While for others, it's just having the opportunity to make a decent living. Now, if democracy is to work, it is government by the people, of the people, for the people. This present government needs to listen to what Nigerians really want. Now, to discuss what Nigerians want and how this government can fulfill its mandate of a renewed hope, I'm joined with a nation builder in the person of Daniel Otabo. Welcome to Rubbin.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for honoring our invitation.
Thank you so much.
And I'm also joined by a development practitioner in the person of Precious Obayuwana, who's joining us from our Abuja studio. Precious, welcome to Rubbin Minds.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll start the conversation asking, what do you want as a Nigerian? What is that one thing? I know there's a long list, but if you were to narrow it down to say maybe 1, 2, 3 things, what do you think Nigerians really want, and what do you want?
Well, I mean, what I want, and I think what most Nigerians want, is good governance. You know, and that's because everything will begin to work when we have good governance. Nigerians are entrepreneurial, they are very skillful, they are very hardworking people. They want enabling environments to just get things going for them. They just want good governance where policies are going to be made that will benefit them as citizens, right? And that will be done by us having good governance. So I think if you should actually just say one thing that I think we want as Nigerians, it will be good governance.
And I think they say that leadership, it all rises and falls on leadership. Yeah. So when we have good governance, all those things like health and education can become a reality. Precious, over to you. What do you want?
For me, I think from this government, it's basically accountability and transparency. Because when people are being held accountable for the things that have been done or what they do, I think then we can definitely see good governance, like Otabo has said. So for me, accountability and transparency, very important.
I think that all links into leadership.
Absolutely.
Now, when we're talking about good governance, how important is the role of the citizen? Because I want to piggyback off what Precious said about accountability. So where does the citizen come in holding the leaders accountable?
Yeah, I think first things first is to understand your rights as citizens and also understand your place as citizens. Thankfully, during the past elections, citizens were fully aware that they had to come and vote, even though we had, I think, one of the lowest turnouts in our election year. However, you could tell that Nigerians, young people especially, had woken up to their reality to say, guess what, guys? We actually had the most collection of PVCs, even though we had less people who come out to come and vote during the election day. And there were issues for that. However, citizens are fully aware of their responsibilities as Nigerians to become part of the system, to become part of the election process, to become part of how they hold the government accountable. And thankfully, through social media, actively, and when policies are being made, you hear them, airing their views. Even during the ministerial list, we're asking when it's going to come out, what's happening, and even what is happening with the whole tribunal issues. You hear them saying to say, all eyes on judiciary, and that's because we are becoming aware that we have a responsibility to hold the government accountable, whether they're doing right or whether they're doing wrong. We have to be accountable. They have to be accountable to us because, in a sense, we voted them into power, so they have to listen to us.
Okay. Now, Precious, I want you to walk us through how people can really demand that accountability. And not just accountability from the top, the presidency, but looking at state level, looking at local government level. Precious, okay, sorry, I'll redirect that to you, Daniel.
All right.
Let's look at accountability across all levels, because it's very easy to come and just hold the president responsible.
Yes.
But what about your local government chairman or your legislators, for example?
I realize that most times we do not pay attention to local government elections. We do not pay attention to, those who are representing us in House of Assembly, House of Reps, and even the Senate. And that's because we are drawn to what we think is the higher mindset, the one who, in a sense, almost looks like it makes all the policies and all the rules. However, if we start to hold those in the local government accountable, right, hold them accountable, they would in turn hold the state government accountable. If we hold the state accountable, they will hold the federal government accountable. But if we leave it, if we do not pay attention, because if you ask the ordinary citizen to say, okay, do you know what, how much was allocated to your state in the fiscal year? They don't know, right? What is your governor supposed to be doing? They don't know. Right. If you now go to the local level, it's even worse, right? So I think, like you mentioned, we have to hold them across board accountable, the local government, chairman, the House of Assembly members, House of Reps, the senators, and then your governors and your president. So it's important that we do it across board and know those who are representing you, right? Know those who are speaking for you in the House, because they are meant to speak for you, listen to you, and then go speak for you. They're not meant to go there and speak their mind. They're meant to say, you know, I want to hear what my people are saying back home so that I can then air their views, right? But if you don't hold them accountable, how then do you make that happen? Right, so yeah.
Okay, now I want to move to you, Precious, and the question is, technology, social media. If you're listening to Daniel, he mentioned how social media has played a huge role in governance. How can we leverage social media to demand accountability across all levels of government? So not just putting the heat on the presidency, but also the local government chairman or the legislators. And how accessible are these people on social media?
Okay, first, in our work in the development space, I don't think that these people are actively on social media because of, on the local level, most of these people do not actually see the importance of social media. Then for citizen engagement with their leaders, over time, we've always tried to explain and to advocate and sensitize people on how effective it is. We can see what happened with the NSAS movement. It went so far that most persons began to understand the importance of collective responsibility on the citizen part. So now we see people tweeting, there's a bad road in a particular place, they're calling out the government, oh, this place is bad, we need you to come fix it, this project has been awarded, but nothing has been done. People are seeing it. But now on the part of the government, we are not really seeing how much they're effective, but we know that they are there. So for citizens to actively engage, I think we need to cut across all levels. One, I would say, write letters. You know, we have the FOI Act now. With the FOI Act, you can demand some information that are really necessary or important for any kind of thing that you're seeking to get from the government. With that, government can respond to you based on that particular act. Now, it then says to say, it's now safe to say that if you know the policies, the laws, you'll be able to demand some certain information from the government. Now, on the part of social media, we know how much they've put so much, laws around social medias. It is now important for the citizen to know how to actively and effectively use it in order for it to, ensure that there is engagement for the leaders to respond to you without being abusive or any sort of misinformation or misappropriation of communication. So it's very important that we understand how to use it effectively, and I'm very sure that with the ones that have been using it so far, we've seen how much impact it has been, and we see how much impact it has been from citizen to the government and government to the citizen. So social media is going a long way. In short, it's currently the new gold mine. And if everybody decides that this is what they would utilize effectively, I'm very sure that citizen engagement and government engagement would go a long way.
Okay. Precious, thank you for that. I noticed that you were nodding your head as she was speaking, and she also spoke about the traditional way of writing letters. If we are to engage across social media, online and offline, what are practical ways that people who are watching are saying, okay, I want to demand for better. I don't know where to start. How do I even find out who my local government chairman is or who my legislator is? And how do I go about doing that?
So I think for one year, most of the government agencies are now on social media, most of them, from the presidency down to the local level. Most of them are now on social media, and that's because they've realized that that's the space where they can interact with their citizens, right? However, it's important that you know your local government chairman, and that would be to say, where is my local government in the area that I'm staying? Right, they are almost, it's very easy to access your local government around your area, right? Most times people go there to do their NIN, they go there to do their other forms of identification, but they don't know that the local government chairman are also in that same building, right? So that's one way you can find them. And again, like I said, they're all on social media. And like Precious had said, right? You see, social media is very, very powerful. It's powerful because people are listening to the things that you're saying. And that's one way we can actually hold them accountable, the government accountable. We should never think that the things we're saying on social media is not being heard in the, in the corridors of power. It's being heard. And that's why you see that when you say things and, things begin to move. So don't hold yourself back to say, are you sure that they are listening to you? And if you believe in something and you think that they should hear what you're saying, ensure that you keep on pushing that narrative, pushing that point. Don't go around spreading fake news, right? If you have your facts right, ensure that you're always pushing that narrative, right? Get people on board to say, guess what, guys? Let us push this thing. It's important for us to send this message across to the people that should listen to us. And they would hear it. Would they listen to you? You never can tell. They will likely listen to you.
Okay,
Yeah.
Precious, I want to ask, so far for the couple of months that this new government has been in power, do you feel they're doing a good job in delivering on some of the things that they promised? And how much are you holding this government accountable?
Well, first I will have to commend this government with the current appointment of ministers. I think one thing I personally have been advocating for is female participation in politics. And I can see how much with the new appointment, more women are now in politics, and we're hoping that there will be more in other levels of the government. But I think what is currently happening is they're doing things that are meant to be done, but I don't think they're putting a lot of other factors into consideration. For instance, from the fuel increase to some of the laws, especially the Student Act. That's in particular, I'm very sensitive about that part, because there are a lot of loopholes in that particular laws, because it doesn't cover for the people who actually do need this particular student loan. Because you can't tell me that before I access this loan, I have to get someone who works in the government. What if I don't know anybody in the government? And also on the part of girl-child education, what if the father does not want his girl child to go to school? So I think for us to ensure that some of these laws are effectively impacting the life of people, especially the female gender, because that is one area that I'm personally involved in. We need to put in areas that ensures that people are held accountable, people are being pushed, or they are being moved to ensure that these areas are touched. Because, like recently, I kept saying that I don't think they do need assessments to actually identify the need of people before some of these laws are being passed.
So you feel that there wasn't
when
enough
you call people around to say,
consultation done before these laws are actually passed with the relevant stakeholders? Daniel, I'd like you to weigh in on that. How much stakeholder engagement needs to be done before some of these laws are passed? Because when we just heard about the student loan act, yes, yeah. On face value, it seemed like a good thing, because abroad you have student loans. But when you start looking at the intricacies, it was like, wait a minute, what if I don't know someone in the civil service? Then how am I able to access this loan?
Yes.
So how much stakeholder engagement does the government need to do before it passes such laws?
I mean, I think enough engagement. And the truth is that I have a contrary opinion in terms of how we say that what the current government is doing. And I'll give you an analogy before I then explain what I'm trying to say. You see, there is an issue on ground right now. People are questioning the legitimacy of this current government, right? And you hear people also saying that, guess what, let's just forgive and forget and all of that stuff. That's a fantastic thing to say. However, I paint a scenario for you. Imagine, for example, that my loved one is being kidnapped, right? And then the kidnapper says to me, guess what, you're going to pay a ransom of about 10 million naira to get your loved one back, okay? Then I paid the money, 10 million naira to get my loved one back. Then the guy says to me, guess what, I'm going to give you 2 million naira, but I will not give you your loved one. My point is that you are telling me to forget my loved one because the kidnapper is going to give me some amount of money from the money that I paid to him. So that's not the way you forget and forgive things.
But that is a sentiment of certain Nigerians. Does that represent the sentiment of the entire nation?
Well, it's as long as the issue is still in court, right, it means that we are questioning the legitimacy of the government. If the tribunal says, hey, he is the rightful winner of this election, the case goes to rest. But as long as it's still in court, there is a question mark to the legitimacy of the government. Now, if it just shows that if there's a question mark to the legitimacy of the government, people are saying to themselves, maybe that's the reason why they don't even pay attention to stakeholders who can actually help, in a sense, give us better policies. Because how do you bring out this act, right, for people who you think, and the students are not even excited about it? There was no excitement anywhere because guess what? There's no trust from where this thing is coming from.
Okay,
right.
I'd like you, Precious, to answer this. How can this government build trust even while we're waiting for the final verdict from the tribunal? Precious.
Building trust is going to be very difficult because first, if our judiciary is not transparent enough to pass a judgment where every citizen, the global world, knows what was done or the rightful thing that was done during the last election, I think that's where we have problem. So access to justice is very important. So when we have a situation in a country where people cannot be held responsible or consequences are not being held, I don't think we can actually build trust. And secondly, we don't have role models who we know that when people look up to these people, we say, okay, this political person is one person that I look up to, and we have youth who are emulating them. And in as much as we have the the not too young bill currently that give access to young people to politics, we still have a long way to go. As you can see, even in the music industry, young people are emulating people that they see that are making it out there.
Precious.
How many persons are?
Sorry to have to jump
Can you
in
hear
there,
me?
but yes, we're out of time now. So thank you very much for your contributions. Yes, thank you very much. Precious Obayuana, a development practitioner who joined us from our Abuja studio. And thank you to a nation builder here, Daniel Otabo.
Thank you
for coming on Rubbin Minds.
Thank you so much.